There we go. We're live.
Yay.
Hello, Angie. Welcome. I'm going to do a quick introduction of me because it's been a few weeks since I was the host. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to Birth and Baby Talk. You might remember me. My name is Meaghan Grant. I am one of the owners of Toronto Family Doulas, Hamilton Family Doulas, and Family Doulas of Ottawa. So, obviously, I have a very sort of broad experience of doula work and parents and parenting all across the province. And with me today is Angie from Little Leaf Photography. With everything that's happened, and there was shutdowns of when photographers can work, and so a lot of parents missed out on those opportunities for newborn photographs and that sort of thing. And since we don't know the future, we don't know what's going to come, we wanted to connect with Angie to talk about what to expect if you are booking a newborn photography session right now, what you can expect from your photographer, if you're looking at photographers, sort of what to ask for to make sure you feel comfortable with it, but also maybe a couple of Angie's sort of top tips for capturing those moments at home. So Angie, why don't you introduce yourself? We know you're amazing, but let's tell everybody else how amazing you are.
Oh, thanks so much. Hi, I'm Angie, and I have my little photography business called Little Leaf Photography. And I have been a family and newborn photographer for about 16 years. I don't know if that dates me and tells you how old I am. I'm still 29 forever.
It goes backwards at 29.
Yes. So I just had my anniversary of my 29th birthday. Yes. That's how it goes. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I have a Bachelor of Fine Art, believe it or not. Many, many years ago, I went to university, went to art school, and I left, and I was like, ooh, this is not for me. I do not want to be like a showing artist. So I started up doing photography work, fell in love, and haven't stopped. I started originally doing weddings, and I was like, there just isn't something that's really making it work for me. There's just something about it that didn't quite jive. And so a couple of years ago, I started focusing just on families and just on newborns. And for me, that really worked, and that really hit the nail on the head in terms of my passion for it. And for me, I realized it's all about the connection. So it's all about the connection between family members and between, a mother or father and their sweet baby. And that's what I capture. So I'm kind of what we would call a lifestyle family photographer. So that means that I'm not really setting up super highly posed newborn photos or super highly posed like the Sears photos. I sort of pose my families, and then I give them sort of some direction around things that I want them to think about and emotions I want to evoke. And then we just take photos, and it sort of evolves naturally through that. So that's kind of how I work a little bit. So that might give you an idea of sort of where I started and kind of where I'm at. I think that's a good sort of intro.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really important for people to realize that you've been doing this for 16 years, because I mean, we're in the GTA. Newborn photographers, let's be real, there's a lot of them. And I've been a doula for 8 years now, and I've watched them come and go and come and go. And you think about working with somebody and doing something with someone, and then 6 months later the company's disappeared. So the fact that you have that kind of longevity is really reassuring to families, because there's no worry that you're just going to poof and disappear.
Okay. Yeah. And it's not like easy per se. I mean, it's easy to get into. That's the one awesome thing about photography, is that a lot of people can do it. And it's so, I'm not the kind of person who believes that you have to have amazing gear to take beautiful photos. And that's part of what I want to advocate, that moms and dads who can't and haven't been able to take photos of their families with a professional, you can totally do it yourself. So you don't have to have fantastic gear to do great photos. Trust me.
Awesome. We'll get to that closer to the end.
Yeah.
I'm not pregnant. I'm not having a baby anytime soon. Let's pretend that I am, and I'm looking to book a newborn photography session. What is that looking like right now? At least for you, can't comment on how everybody else is doing it. But what should parents sort of look for in a photographer right now in terms of safety and all of that aspect of it? Because that's a whole new world. We all know to go to Instagram and look at photographers' pictures and pick the photography or we like their style of, but there's a whole layer of consideration that we didn't think about until a few months ago.
It's so true. So we're really lucky. Photographers are now in stage, once we hit stage 2, we can now work, which is really great. And for the majority of us, we work in situations where we can maintain social distance, we can easily wear a mask, we can protect ourselves and our clients and our customers. So we're in a really lucky situation where it's really easy to protect ourselves and the people that we work with, especially because we're working with such vulnerable populations like tiny babies and, moms who are just recovering from, a major life event. So we're really lucky that we can do that. So it kind of depends. First off, I want to say that families should, like you said, be looking at the style of the photographer that they want to hire. That's really, really important. So I'm not a big believer like you should ask a photographer, what equipment are you using? How many years of experience do you have? Yes, those things are important, but I don't think that they're like the be all end all of what a photographer is. I know so many amazing photographers who are just a mom with a camera, and they fell into it and they realized they had this amazing drive and passion. But back to your question about what kinds of precautions should we be looking at and looking for? So as a lifestyle family photographer, I feel really lucky that I can shoot outside. And that for me is going to be the safest place. So I would say to a family, hey, do you have like a favorite park you want to go to? And yes, we can do family and newborn photos outside. They can be natural, they can be beautiful, but I know lots of other photographers and my colleagues who are taking amazing precautions in their studios for photography. So again, they're using different lenses so that they can be far away from their families. And they're asking families and moms and dads to be more participatory in the posing. And they're directing with words rather than touching, wearing masks, staying safe, and doing really deep cleans of their studios, and having lots of equipment to sanitize. So I know that they're taking precautions like only one family per day, and so that they're using that rest of that time to be able to really deep clean the space and to be really, really safe. So it's really nice. So those are kinds of things that you might want to ask a photographer, although I feel like the majority of us, we're really careful and we want to make sure that the people we work with are safe and happy with the experience, because it's really an experience, I think.
Absolutely. So we didn't do newborn. I mean, we sort of did newborn photography, but we waited till he was like 5 weeks old. So I don't think it counted. Oh no,
I'm sorry, but a newborn.
And had quite the grumpy face. But it's good to know that there's still that option. Like, I don't think of outdoor photography for newborn photos. I think of it for like my 5 and 8-year-old if we were to go do family pictures right now. But it's, even as a doula, it's not something I really think about with newborns. So it's sort of neat that that's an option and that you're able to sort of facilitate that space.
Yeah, like maybe not in December. Might be a little chilly. But now I think is the perfect time of year to do it. And we're really lucky to live in a place where it does get warm in the summer. So like maybe not December kind of thing, too cold. But I feel like, yeah, of course, you can find someone who's going to be kind of creative with it and take those photos outside, and it can be a really special place. Like, what about the place that you and your partner got engaged, by the lake, on, just have those sweet cuddled up photos of you and your sweet new baby. Like, I'm picturing this and I'm like, at sunset. And okay, so who can we get to go?
I've got the fall in my head with like the parents with all of the colored foliage and stuff. Like, that would be, there's so many places in this city with beautiful fall sort of scenery in their parks that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. So one of the great things, so traditional newborn photography, like that superposed photos, those ones are really best done within the first like 2 to 3 weeks of baby's life, because they're still sleepy, cuddly, they're hard to rouse from new sleep, and they're just going to curl up into any little pose that you want to do with them. And so for a little while, I actually did that type of newborn photography that was highly posed. And that's part of the reason why I recommend people go to a photographer's website and look at their portfolio, because if you really want that, you got to find a photographer who specializes in that, because it is very specialized and does take a lot of training and being very conscientious of safety. And so those photos, there is a really kind of a time limited period on that. It is, like you say, it is harder to do those like sweet, cuddly newborn photos when a baby's like, 5 months old. But as a newborn photographer who specializes sort of in lifestyle, that's the work that I feel really lucky about, is that even though I've missed all of these months of my newborn clients, I can still do newborn photos with them now. because it isn't necessarily about capturing that sweet, tiny little baby. I mean, yeah, that's really amazing, but I can still capture that sweet, loving connection with my families that's going to exist whether your newborn baby is 4 months old or 2 days old.
So all of those like spring babies that have been cloistered at home, the opportunity is still there. It isn't completely gone.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's just, you just sort of, I think of like newborn as like the first year of life because, oh my gosh, it's insane. Anybody who has a newborn, like, yeah, you get special treatment for at least a year, if not longer, for real.
Longer.
Yeah, for real.
That's wonderful. So tell us some tips now. This is what I think everybody is the most interested in. Obviously, a lot of us hire professionals, but I mean, we're not celebrities. We can't walk around with a photographer 24 hours a day capturing every adorable thing our baby does. And, when we typically see we see sort of that first newborn picture that you were talking about, those really highly staged ones. We see some more of those like family photos as baby gets a little bit older, and then cake smashes are obviously wildly popular with a lot of families at the 1 year mark. So that's sort of when we think of having a photographer to come in. But obviously there's crawling and rolling over and first steps and meeting grandparents and all of those things that, unless you have a photographer following you around, get missed. So let's talk about some ways to capture those. And I know you said you don't need a fancy camera. You don't need fancy equipment.
You don't. For real, you don't. So the really big thing is about light and lighting. So I have some fancy props because I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. I have my very fancy props. Lego. Okay, so my big
familiar.
You're like, oh, I have those pieces at home. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so my first big piece of advice is about light. So everybody in their house or in their apartment has one big, beautiful window in their house. So it could be a sliding glass door in your kitchen. It could be the front door of your house. It could be your bedroom window that's really nice and lets in natural light. So only use natural light. Do not turn on any of the lights in the rest of your house. Trust me on this. And then what you want to do is you want to put as the photographer, you want to put your back to the window and photograph in. So I have my little prop here. You can kind of see. So our little mommy here is going to be our photographer. Hi, mommy. And she is going to be taking a photo of her adorable little daughter here. So what she's going to do, she's going to open her front door and she's going to let in all this natural light right here. And then she's going to stand right in front of that door and take a photo this way. So she's going to take a photo into the room that way. So you're getting all this natural light coming in through the door or your big open window, and you're going to take the photo this way. So what this does is it kind of naturally lights. It hides all of, for some of us, it hides all these like dark shadows under here. So where I'm sitting right now, I have a big window right in front of me, and this was very intentional. So I have this beautiful big window right in front of me. So I have this nice soft light, and maybe some of my 29-year-old wrinkles are being, shadowed a little bit.
Those are pandemic wrinkles. I'm convinced they'll go away.
Perfect. I'm so glad because so yeah, again, the light is really important. So we're going to be sort of putting ourselves in this like diffused light. So you don't want to have like sharp light coming in. If you do, you might want to pull the curtains a little bit or like shears. But the big first piece of advice is stand with a window or a door. So just open your front door and take a photo that way. So natural light, really important. That's number one. You can just use your iPhone. iPhones are great. They take fantastic photos, especially the new ones. Like they are fancy. I do not have a fancy one, but they are fancy. So that's my very first piece of advice is shoot in natural light. Don't turn on any of your lights inside the house. They're bad. Okay.
They turn even yellow in pictures.
Yes, that's so true.
Regardless of what color your bulb is, everything gets that yellow tinge. And it's when you have a baby, then as a doula, my question is, has the doctor checked that jaundice? Which it's not the lighting, but it's sort of, So yeah, natural light is a great tip.
Absolutely. So natural light, first thing. Okay, so the next one is try to maximize every pose that you put your kid into. So we all know kids, they get fussy really quickly. They're going to move really quickly. And if you can get your kid to be, I'm going to say bribed, but we all know that's just incentive. So if you can give your kid a bribe, or they're kind of hanging out and they're being good, but you know what I mean? If they're content, maximize that for as long as you can. And you're going to want to take photos as quickly as you can. So maximize. So I've got another little prop here. My little baby girl. She's my sweet little newborn baby. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swaddle her up. My favorite newborn pose is to take my sweet little newborn baby. I should be supporting her neck. I'm going to take my sweet little newborn baby and I'm going to lie her down on her back. So again, my light window coming in this way. I'm going to lie her down on her back. It doesn't matter if she's sleeping or if she's awake. And I'm just going to kind of put a nice little blanket on top of her, take a photo from about her belly button up. And so she's in this sweet little pose right here. And I've got her in this sweet little pose. I've taken a photo of her just from her belly button up. And then what I'm going to do, so we're going to pretend she's lying on her back here. So then what I'm going to do, I'm also going to take a photo from the side. I'm going to take a photo of that sweet little side profile. I'm going to get down really close. And then she's still happy. She's not crying. So I'm going to get down and I'm going to take a photo from the back of her head. Look at that sweet little curl she's got in the back of her head. Oh, she's still not crying. Thank goodness. I'm going to focus in and I'm going to get really close and take a photo of that sweet little ear. Like, look at that sweet little thing. And maybe focus in on that tiny little nose. So I've taken this one sort of pose, this one setup, and I've maximized. So I've got like 4 or 5 different images from it. So while your kids, while your kids are content, maximize it. So it goes for older kids too, especially when you're doing a cake smash or anything like that. You want to, while they are like chilled out, take as many photos from as many different angles as you can, sort of maximizing that content time before they cry, run away.
Before the sugar rush kicks in.
Yeah, exactly. Before the sugar rush kicks in, like, oh my goodness.
My husband and I didn't do cake smashes with our kids. I mean, we gave them cake on their first birthday, but it wasn't this sort of thing. And even just like the little cupcake, I remember being like, why would anybody put an entire cake and just let their kid go at it? Like, that child bounced off the wall for hours, and it was a monster one, my oldest, and it was orange, and it dyed him orange.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good tip for a cake smash. I highly recommend do not use anything other than vanilla frosting or a vanilla cake.
I thought of that.
Yeah. So for a cake smash, I highly recommend vanilla, because if you use any other color, it's going to be really weird. So especially red velvet, looks like your kid's bleeding, which is really bad. It's really bad. So yeah, vanilla is the best. Chocolate cake can be very cute, but it kind of looks really gross and dirty. That's a good tip.
And I'm thinking it, like, I've seen one with like blue frosting and stuff. I'm like, you're all I could think was that's way too much editing for a photographer to have to do to take the blue out of their skin. So I hadn't thought of that before, but that's a really good tip, especially for cake smashes.
Yeah. And then my last piece of advice, if you can't hire a photographer, learn how to use the self timer on your camera, because I want to see moms and dads in their photos. So many people, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I bet you are. You have so many photos of your kids. And when was the last time you had a photo with your child, right? So learn how to use the self timer on your photo. Now, while you have a self timer, like, set it up. You got your beautiful window light. You're going to set it up. Now, the trick is, do not worry about everybody looking at the camera. What you want to do is create a nice moment. So tell your kids, hey, look at me. I'm going to kiss you. So snuggle in, smell the top of your sweet baby's head, and just picture how that first smell when you held them the first time, and that's going to show up in your photo, that moment, right? So don't worry about looking at the camera. Don't worry about getting your kids to look at the camera. Just set it up and get in the photos. Please get in the photos. I'm begging you. You, as moms and dads and caregivers, deserve to be in photos with your children. So use it. It feels weird. It feels so awkward. I have done it, but it is so worthwhile. highly recommend it.
This is something we at Toronto Family Doulas and all of the agencies have talked about before, is like moms become the unofficial photographer of the family, and they take pictures of everybody else with the baby. And then, 10 years later, you look back and you're like, where was I in all of this? Oh, I was behind the camera. So I mean, even the tips of like the self timer, the timer and all of that are huge. But I love the emphasis you give on just like be there, be in the pictures, be in front of the camera, because we are there as moms and we often end up behind the camera.
Yeah, and it's so easy to just take a selfie, right? Like I love that. And honestly,
those I think are the only pictures of me with my kids are selfies.
Yep, and it's so easy to do because you're just like, oh, we look great. But I highly recommend just setting up your camera and don't encourage anybody to look at it. Just take photos of you looking at each other, because really that's kind of like real life. And I'm going to bet that's probably the photos that you might like the best 10 years from now.
I personally prefer lifestyle photography, so I can absolutely agree. Those are the pictures that 10 years from now will remind you of your time as a family versus this very sort of staged, picture setup. So I think that that's fantastic. Those are all really amazing tips. What I'm going to do for everybody who's watching, I'm going to put these into some, the 3 tips we gave into some memes, and I'll put them up along with this video so everybody can quickly take access and see them on the fly. But I don't want to stop until, Angie, you tell people how to get a hold of you. So if people are looking to book you, if they are looking for a newborn photographer, unfortunately, all of our folks in Ottawa, you are a little SOL on that one. That might be a bit of a far drive for Angie, but for the GTA.
Okay. So you can find me. I'm online. You can find my portfolio at www.littleleafphotography.ca. I'm on Instagram at littleleafphoto. And you can really just holler at me if you have questions about how to take good photos. On my website, I've got a whole list of these tips on my blog. I regularly post videos on my Instagram live and just my Instagram stories about how you can take better photos of your kids. I even did like a whole series about how to take photos of kids in your bathtub, for real. So you can follow me there. And I do some pretty specific stuff, and my poor kids are probably like, oh my gosh, not again. Why are we being featured here? But I mean, that's what I got. So that's what I use.
That's so you can the life of children of photographers, I think.
Yeah, sorry guys. But yeah, so follow me, and I believe that anybody can and should take great and beautiful photos of your own family. You do not need a fancy photographer. You don't need a fancy camera, but I think everybody should treat themselves to a family photographer every once in a while.
Absolutely. Angie, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. I know it was helpful for me because, like I said, I'm the one taking the selfies. But I also think it's going to be helpful for all of those parents that have brought babies home recently that maybe aren't quite comfortable going with an outside person yet. They can take their own. But also all of those families who had their babies, didn't have that chance, but are now ready to maybe go into that sort of professional photography realm, have that chance is still there to capture the sweetness of that newborn stage.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.